It's time for the season 1 finale. And we have as our guest today Malavika Varadan. If you have a kid who's growing up, if you have a kid who's glued to a screen with an iPad or a tablet and demanding another phone from you, this episode is for you. If you want to create better leaders for the future, this episode is for you. Why is it important for our kids to have an opinion? Should we regard their opinion or dismantle their spirits by just not listening to them? All this and more gets addressed by Malavika in today's episode as the leader from the Hive in Dubai. What are the key elements of theatre? Is storytelling as an art dying today?
In a world where people think for 5 seconds and they talk for 1 minute, so bizarre, no? We're human beings and we are complicated human beings. Tell me where a woman is meant to breastfeed. Great, you'll take your coffee and go to the toilet? No, na?
At what point did you discover in your life that kids, Hive, passion, storytelling, this is the thing I'm going to be known for?
To me, that drama room in my school was a magic place. Drama isn't about creating the next Shahrukh Khan. It's the reason why a lot of people don't do podcasts, right? Because they're scared that they're going to make mistakes in public and it'll be weird.
Between profits and emotions, what matters more?
To make mistakes, recover, repair, reflect, and try again.
Today, it's a blessing to have on our podcast show, and let's ask from her, who is Malavika?
Malavika is somebody who is deeply passionate about education. I really believe that arts can transform children's lives. And that's my work. That's what I'm on the planet to do. Give kids a place where they can feel like they belong and where we can use art and storytelling and the ability to tell a good story to make sense of a pretty crazy world.
Is storytelling as an art dying today?
No, it's just the form in which we tell those stories that's changed. What I find very disabling about this new form of storytelling is that in 90 seconds, how am I possibly going to be able to tell you everything that I have to tell you? And I find it a bit difficult to do this short form kind of thing. I'm learning how to. But to me, the joy of a long story and a big book and something that takes weeks and months to chew on and work on and really imbibe and live in, that to me is joy.
At what point did you discover in your life that kids, Hive, passion, storytelling, this is the thing I'm going to be known for?
So that's an interesting question actually, because I was born into a family of publishers, and I grew up in the shade of a bookshelf. I was a girl who didn't ever go out and play. I've never played hide and seek or chor police or marbles. And every evening after I come back from school, I used to sit down with my books and read, because my dad's office gave me a never-ending supply of storybooks. Imagine that. It was like me being Charlie in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory with a never-ending bunch of stories. Also, very interestingly, especially for podcasters, in the early 90s, my dad's company was getting into audiobooks, which at that time was very new. So we received these little sample tapes that would come from England, right? And one was Stephen Fry reading Enormous Crocodile. One was First Term at Mallory-Tas. There was Peter Pan. And we had these few cassettes that we had. And I would listen to them over and over and over again to the point that I knew it by heart. So I would put on the cassette and then I would just mimic the voices. And in mimicking the voices, I realized that there's something magical happening here, like my ability to use my voice to kind of create new characters and create emotion and anticipation. That was something I was really enjoying doing. And then I got a little bit older, moved schools. My dad had a stroke, and at that point, when life was getting quite difficult for me in my early teens, I discovered the magic of theatre. And theatre was like, oh wow, so this whole making voices thing is real. It's a real subject and we're all going to do this together. To me, that drama room in my school was a magic place. It was like a place that I could go and just disappear for hours and become someone else when it was very difficult being me.
Yeah.
And stepping out of that room, I felt like refreshed. It felt like taking a shower in a sense. You know, I felt like I was anew. And that's when drama sort of came into my life. And children and reading was always a large part of it. When I was in college, I used to do this thing called 3 Stories High with the British Council Library and 2 of my friends. And we used to do storytelling for children in different spaces, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. And we just did it for fun. We weren't really thinking about the money. It was nice to have a little bit of pocket money. Radio happened, economics happened. And then at some point in 2019, I was, it's funny, I think it was 2012, 2013, I can't remember. We were doing a play called The Farnsworth Invention. And after the play got over, each of the actors received from the director a little TV box, because that's what the play was about. And everybody would sign that thing. And I wrote, after everyone signed, at 3 a.m, when the cast party was at its peak, I took a sketch pen and I wrote on that, "Someday I must do this for a living." And I kept it on my shelf. And in 2019, I chose to buy over the Hive, and then I did it for a living.
Yeah.
So it's funny how the pieces of the puzzle all kind of come together, right?
Who was your first inspiration to move you towards drama and theatre? And at what age did that begin for you?
There have been several people who have inspired me along the way. For me, my drama teacher when I was 11 actually, was Ratan Thakur Grant. He was a drama teacher in my school. My school didn't have a very great playground. Like we didn't have tennis courts and like all these fancy things. So, as an alternative to that, I think they thought drama is a cheap alternative. You just give them one empty room, they'll be happy with it. So they gave Ratan Thakur this empty room, and on Saturday mornings he would do these extra drama classes, and he was my first inspiration. And the sad thing is, Pankaj, he passed away a couple of years ago, and I never told him how much he's impacted my life. Imagine my entire career now is based on what Ratan Thakur Grant did in the year 1997, and he never knew.
What are the key elements of doing theatre?
Funding, space, ideas, will.
And the persistence of doing it every day.
Yeah.
The preparation.
That's will, right?
Yeah.
That's will. The will to be able to get up and come to this space and rehearse those lines over and over again, knowing that this will only live once.
Yeah.
It will only live once. It literally has the lifespan of a moth.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre in a world where people think for 5 seconds and they talk for 1 minute. This is a world where you rehearse for 6 months, 8 months, 1 year sometimes.
Yeah.
For one night.
Yeah. For 2 hours.
Yeah. Not even one night, for 2 hours. So bizarre, no?
Yeah, true.
But what could be a better learning, what could be a better lesson in just how transient life is than theatre?
I've also been a student for you. So not just a teacher for kids, but for adults like me.
Yeah.
What do you do with the adults?
With adults, what I've come to realize is a lot of us are extremely scared of getting up on stage and presenting to a room of people. But as you grow in your career, whether it's someone like you who actually wants to start a podcast or start something where speaking is at the center of your new world, or even if you're just someone who works in, say, accounts or like you said, cybersecurity, there comes a part of your life where you need to start presenting to an audience more and more. So it's not just about doing what you do, but it's about talking about what you do. That is really the game changer. Unfortunately, in schools and in our education process and in our training, we're not necessarily training this skill. So what it means is that if you are, let's say, fantastic at accounts, there's going to come a point where it's not just about accounts, it's about you being able to talk about accounts. True. And you don't have that skill, which means you've got a glass ceiling. Where do you go from there? Yeah. Right? And without being able to represent your department, your team, your industry in many cases, how are you to move forward? Right? Public speaking. So, and this is what I always say about the work that we do with the Hive. Drama isn't about creating the next Shahrukh Khan.
True.
If we get a next Shahrukh Khan out of my classroom, I would be thrilled. Yeah. But that's not my objective. My objective is to be able to take the lessons that Shahrukh Khan uses on stage, which is the ability to tell a story, use charm and charisma, connect with an audience, be able to, read a room.
Yeah.
And if you are able to take those lessons from an actor and apply it into your life as a person in cybersecurity or accounts, or as a doctor, a politician, a business person, imagine the magic that could happen.
You worked in a corporate life for 11 years and then you're managing a startup right now. How different is life in both?
I always joke that I am now unemployable. I'm addicted to entrepreneurship.
You're addicted to happiness.
Yeah. I love the work that I do, Pankaj, and every single day of my life, I wake up in the morning and think about my kids and I think about my class. And to me, that is the focus of what I do. Everything I do around that is to enable that.
True.
If I spend time on business development in the morning, if I'm doing a podcast here, if I'm working on PR somewhere else, it's all so that I can give my kids a better experience. And nothing drives me as much as that. It is absolutely the central focus of my life and my purpose on the planet.
How did Hive fell into your lap?
So Hive was set up in 2014 by two very dear friends of mine who actually it all came to be in the aftermath of a play, and we did this play together, and you know how it is, you spend every evening together and you're just so sad when the play is done because you want to hang out and you want to be with each other.
Feeling, right? When a play stops after the show is done, it takes you 3 to 4 weeks to come out of that play, actually.
It's like a breakup, but worse.
Yeah.
No. So we had, had this play and it was over. And then in the aftermath of that, we started a band and we'd like jam together. And these were all people who we had all done theatre together before. And we realized that there's only so long we can rehearse in people's living rooms.
Yeah.
And there's only so much that neighbors will put up with when you've got drum kits and noisy actors. So we thought, okay, chalo, maybe a space would be a good idea. And we started out actually training in other people's studios. We were training kids in studios that we would rent out. And it finally got to a point where we're like, listen, we need a space of our own. And then, that's when the Hive happened. And then in 2019, I had come to a point in my career in radio where I felt like, okay, I think I need to change things up a bit. I do feel like I love the job. Radio is great at paying you. You have fame, you've got money, you've got a pretty comfortable life that you can get very used to, and that's dangerous. But I felt like I wasn't really learning anything new. And the new things that at that time radio was trying to teach me, which is perhaps, mastering social media or, that kind of stuff. I was like, I don't know if that's really my jam. It's not.
Yeah. Not my thing.
While I enjoyed some aspects of the job, like the team and connecting with audiences, there were parts of the job that I didn't really connect to. I've never been much of a Bollywood person, and social media wasn't really my jam. So I thought, okay, chalo, let's try something new. And then the Hive just landed in my lap because these friends of mine were moving to Canada and they were looking to sell the business. So I bought it over from them, and that's how it happened.
As part of your entrepreneurship journey, there are times when you need to have uncomfortable conversations with your employees or your peers. How do you prepare yourself for such conversations?
I hate them. I like to think that I've gotten better at them since I started. So one thing that I do before I go into an uncomfortable conversation is I ask myself, where is my audience right now? And I do this even with public speaking. Where is my audience right now? Where do I need them to be? What's coming in the way? I think if you are able to define that before you go into a difficult conversation, it makes things a lot easier.
Sometimes doing all these multiple roles, wearing all these multiple hats, does become emotionally exhausting. How do you recover?
Yeah, it is emotionally exhausting because there's a lot going on and there's a lot at stake. And I was telling a friend about this the other day. If someone in, say, a tech job or, someone who's dealing with numbers and papers, if they make a mistake, sure, there is something at stake. But here, when I make a mistake, if I have a bad day and I take that bad day into my classroom and I yell at a child and I make that child feel terrible about themselves, the damage that I have done is
for years,
multiple times what any other job does. So what we're doing as teachers is an emotionally demanding, high stakes, high risk environment with the least possible resources and often battling the very people who send their children to us, right? So there is a lack of, we're doing all of these things in this little space and doing the most important job in the world.
Yeah.
Because if I ask you tomorrow, what's your biggest asset in life? I mean, to use the analogy of the a building on fire, what do you reach for first? You reach for your children. They are the most precious thing in the world to you.
True.
And you hand us your children for several hours a week as teachers. Very often more hours than you spend with them.
True.
And you're giving us the task to raise them to be stable, kind, gentle human beings and capable of navigating a world that we don't even know. We don't know what it's going to be like 10 years from now. And we have our hands tied.
One important thing which I've seen with all Hive students, including my own child, is they all have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
They all have an opinion of everything. How important it is for kids to make mistakes and have opinions.
All kids make mistakes. All people make mistakes. The question is, can we provide them a safe enough space to be able to make enough mistakes fast enough to be able to learn their lessons before the stakes are high? Right? What happens right now is, if, let's say your child is on TikTok and they do something really, as they would call it, cringe. They put up something that they're kind of ashamed of. What are the stakes there? It's not a safe space.
Yeah.
Because they're being trolled by anonymous human beings on a platform where you have no control of the outcome.
True.
When they come into a drama classroom and they try an improv exercise, do they make mistakes? Yes. Are all their jokes funny? No. Are there cringy moments? For sure. But what do we offer them in that room? A safe space to be silly and to be okay to not be perfect all the time, to make funny faces and do strange things with their body and for it not to look great and for it to be pretty messy for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
And I think when we talk about building creative people for the future, who are creative people? Really, what is creativity? Creativity is the ability to take a risk. It's your ability to make something that doesn't already exist. And by virtue of just giving yourself that task, you're already doing something very risky, right?
Yeah.
Because by making anything, you can make a piece of music, a piece of art, a piece of drama, a piece of dance. You're making something that doesn't already exist, and that is creativity. In order to be able to have the power to be creative, I need to be okay with making mistakes. But if I am raised in an environment where my mistakes are so high stakes all the time, then I don't have the capacity to be creative because you've scared me. You know, you've like from the very first time I tried something new, I'm like, that was horrible. I'm going to pull back. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. It's okay only. I won't do it. I won't do it. It's the reason why a lot of people don't do podcasts, right? Because they're scared that they're going to make mistakes in public and it'll be weird. It's also important for children to make mistakes, recover, repair, reflect, and try again. So for me, the most important part of a child going on stage and doing a play is not the part where they get the line right.
Yeah.
It's the part where they get the line wrong. It's where the prop doesn't work. It's where the costume has a weird moment. It's where your co-actor completely blanked out and forgot their line. It's the part where you had a child who's got special needs on stage with you and you now had to come up with a new solution to get through the scene. If we are able to fail pretty miserably on stage, recover from it, start the next scene, go back in your next play and do it with equal passion, then I've built a great actor.
Yeah.
You know, so that to me is the answer to, is it important for children to make mistakes? Yeah. I think what ends up happening, again, I refer to this digital world. Most of my students are between the ages of 10 and 15, the ones that I personally teach, right? And what's happening, what I'm seeing now is that they are constantly being fed a series of opinions on social media.
True.
And they have these quick 30-second, 15-second,
Bits.
160 character opinions without actually delving deep into the subject matter. So what I try to do with my Media Lab program, for example, where my students are developing podcasts, is to go beyond the primary question. So for example, if the primary question is, why are schools so uncool? Or how come a teacher gets to kick a child out of a classroom? Or how much do we really owe our parents for raising us? Uncomfortable questions. I want you to take 3 weeks, 4 weeks to sit and really dig deep. Mind map that question. See where it's coming from. Explore examples. Research it. Understand the science. And then bring it back to the table. Share that opinion. Hear feedback that differs from you. Construct an argument. Construct a podcast. And then record it. That's the long run game that I'm interested in. I'm not interested in like 20-second opinions that are reflected off TikTok.
You mentioned a very important aspect of researching a topic before you start speaking on that topic, right? there is ChatGPT, there is AI available. They can ensure that your research is faster, deeper, and has multiple angles to the same question. So, how do you integrate or not integrate AI as part of your activities at Hive?
I'm not a fan of AI being involved in the writing aspect of things, and I'll tell you why. I think a creator's job is fundamentally messy, right? It's if you go into the first rehearsal of a play, it looks very bad. Yeah,
We've all been there. Yeah.
And every creator, whether you're a drama teacher or a dance or music, whatever, it's pretty bad for a pretty long time before it gets better.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm afraid of is the inability of a younger generation who's been creating in a pretty fast churn, quick turnaround system. They're not able to sit in the messy for a long time.
True.
If they, let's say you make a reel, it's like, yuck, it's so bad. I don't want to do it. 24 hours, chop, gone, finished. Now next idea. It's like, but no, you have to sit on it and it has to be messy for a really long time. So ChatGPT, what it does is it offers children a crutch when things get uncomfortable. I think the place where it really shows up is when kids are having conversations.
Yeah.
So am I able to have a conversation with a child where they have no access to a device, and I ask them to leave their devices outside the classroom, and we're having a debate? Yesterday, for example, we did a debate in the class about whether a teacher's bonus and pay scale should be dependent on their popularity with students. And there was no devices involved. They all shared their opinions. They told us personal stories. And if you have enough of these conversations with kids where you are asking their opinions, listening to it, responding as you would with an adult, they start to feel more and more empowered about their point of view. But I think the important thing is to challenge them.
Yeah.
Challenge your kids. Ask them tough questions. And also allow them to ask you tough questions. Because that's a very important lesson. How they deal with authority today is going to define whether they are able to speak truth to power tomorrow. Today it might be in a classroom, but tomorrow are they going to be able to tell their government that what the government is doing is not on? Are they going to be able to tell a boss that like, hey, I don't think that policy really works for me? Are they going to be able to tell a partner that I don't appreciate the way you're treating me? All that starts in the classroom.
Whatever curriculum we have in the schools, that can all be ChatGPT'd.
Yeah.
And kids can do faster calculations. Kids can do faster experiments using AI and all these things. But the only thing which AI cannot teach is how to act, how to speak, how to think. Do you agree to this?
How to feel, how to deal with your feelings, and that aspect of it as well. How to create originally. I think these sort of softer aspects of learning are what the Hive offers. It's what drama offers. And it's what an arts education offers, which is why an arts education is so incredibly important for your child.
There is one topic which you are very passionate about, which is financial independence, and this being part of your curriculum in the schools.
I think being able to be financially independent allows you to walk out of unsafe places, whether that's an unsafe job, whether that's an unsafe marriage, whether that's, an unsafe deal that you're getting into. If money is not a factor, if you're not worried about how you're going to pay your bills and who's going to put a roof over your head, it means that you can leave an unsafe place faster and you can make better decisions. And to me, that's a very, very, very important thing to equip young girls with, because I think that's something that not a lot of young girls get spoken to about. It's nobody ever talks to them about it. Nobody ever tells them that you've got to get a separate bank account or have your savings separately or ensure that your debts are not mixed up with your partner's debts, or when you're getting into the workplace, for example, how you negotiate for yourself. We've taught our young girls to be hard workers, and they work hard, but they don't always work smart.
Yeah.
They don't always know how to cut a deal. They don't apply for jobs where they feel like they don't meet the requirements. There's popular studies that say that women will only apply for the job if they meet 100% of the requirements, whereas men do it even if they've met much less. And that's just it. No, we're robbing ourselves of opportunities to grow because it's an unfair world. The boys have been given something that the girls just haven't, and the men have continue to be given something that the women haven't, and that's just unfair to me. And children and marriage puts you on a further back foot financially. And there's interesting research about what that does to your career graph and how you start getting excluded from conversations and how you start getting excluded from opportunities. And over time, the same, if you're 45 and you went to university with a girl who was extremely bright and scoring just as much as you and was kicking your butt in every college project, won't be surprised if you meet her at 45 or at 48 or at 53 and there's a massive gap in your careers. And why is that? Well, all of the above.
And the pay parity.
Yes, of course. And just cold, hard pay parity. But sometimes pay parity doesn't appear. The scary thing about pay parity is that very often it's mistaken for, but I have these two people in this role, say a software engineer's role, and she's earning 14K and he's earning 14K. So what's the problem? The problem is not as black and white and as immediate as that. Right? It's also about the opportunities that she and he are going to be given to grow their roles and what's robbing them of the ability to commit to bigger things in their career from a home front, and the kind of support they're receiving from a home front, the kind of support that workplaces are giving women versus men. The simplest example is you look at the biggest companies in the country and tell me where a woman is meant to breastfeed.
Yeah.
I come back from work as a mother. Okay, post-maternity leave. Where am I supposed to go? To the toilet? Okay, great. You'll take your coffee and go to the toilet? No, na? So I'm supposed to be pumping breast milk in the loo
For my child.
For my child, who is barely 6 months old. How does the math? Right? To me, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. So I think talking about, there is this idea that we live in an equal world. I don't know what you guys are complaining about. Men and women have equal opportunity. You're running a business. Everything is good for you. Why are you complaining? It's hardly like you're in some village being beaten up by your husband.
I never thought about that breastfeeding part while in the book, but it just gives me a thought that, okay, yes, this is true. But I never realized this is true.
You never thought about it. And that's just the problem. And you perhaps never thought about it because you didn't have enough women on your team who were pregnant and breastfeeding at the same time. That's not the half of it. That's not the tip of the iceberg. And that's the problem. The conversation has to be deeper and more, exploratory than that.
Whenever you have an opinion like this, there is a certain section of people who would say, not all men are like this, Malu. How do you react to that?
The question is not all men. It's also the question of not all of a man is bad. I think that's the difficult thing to contend with. We're human beings and we are complicated human beings. Within the best of men I know, there are parts of their lives that are extremely discriminatory against women.
Yeah.
My own dad, for example. Wonderful man. I would say the best human being who's walked on this planet, hands down. To me, he's my Dalai Lama. He's perfect. Just the perfect human being. Kindest human being in the world. Does that mean that he was a perfect husband? Does that mean he was a perfect father? Does that mean that none of his views were sexist? Does it mean that he did not help in some way keep a system in place that in some ways served him and other men? I can't answer that honestly and say 100% yes,
Maybe
right?
that's because the way he was brought up. That's the society he was living in.
So that's just it. So when I look at Pankaj, it's unfair for me to say that Pankaj is a bad man. It's also unfair for me to say that Pankaj is a good man.
Yeah.
There's a part of you that could do with conversation. There's a part of you that could do with healing.
Yeah.
Because you have your own pain and your own hurt that you carry. And there's a part of you that is actually pretty forward thinking and does believe that freedom should be afforded to everyone.
You've seen sensitive men as well. A rarity, but you've seen them?
Of course. I think men are, I've seen some of the most wonderful, sensitive human beings in the world. And I think it's the systems that trap us also trap them.
Yeah.
And feminism and, wanting...
being abused at times.
No, wanting a world where men and women are treated equally is as much about giving men the space to be their full selves as it is about giving women the space to be their full selves. And of course, there are men who have been at the receiving end of advantage over decades and centuries. Of course, you don't have to worry about having your butt groped on a bus
Yeah.
And that's a privilege.
Yeah.
But also, you have to worry about going into a meeting and crying and feeling like they're going to judge you for crying. No?
True.
So the world that one tries to create where all men and women are treated equally, etc., is good for all of us.
शादी अभी भी करनी है?
No, look, I am negotiating marriage at this point.
Okay.
I'm negotiating with the institution. I don't know if I like it or not.
And what's your argument about it?
Look, I think marriage as an institution has really changed over time, and I think its significance in my life has changed over time. I think I come from a breed of women who are financially independent, emotionally fairly independent. We make our own plans, we run our own schedules, we have our own ships, we have our own tables, we have our own friends. So the question then arises of, then what does he bring to the table? And that's a very uncomfortable question for most men, because that means that what do you bring to the table, right? What is it that a man offers, or what is it that marriage offers that this current system is not already providing you? And I think we as a generation of women, and this is me and all of the friends that I went to college with and school with, and my circle, my tribe of women are all asking the same question. Some of them are in marriages and negotiating it. Some of them are out of marriages and negotiating it. Some of them have been married and negotiating it.
Yeah.
But we are all in the process of currently negotiating with marriage. We're trying to look at men and say, look, the way it worked for our mothers and their mothers is certainly not true anymore. My grandmother had 9 children with her husband, and her primary focus was keeping this home running, because what else do you do when you have 9 children? My mother was a career woman, but she spent most of her life taking care of my dad and us. Things are very different for me. I stand on the shoulders of these women and I ask, what do you bring to the table? What value do you add? And until we can really answer that question, not just for ourselves, but for all the women at the table, I think this is an ongoing battle and an ongoing, like I said, it's an ongoing negotiation with the institution of marriage.
Tell me more about this theatre festival that you're doing. What are the age groups? How many plays? What are the plays?
Sure. So we start on the 4th of May with our youngest, that's our 5 to 7-year-olds. And then the following weekends, the age group grows in terms of the actors. We have a total of 60 plays that we're showcasing. So if your kids are interested in coming by, we have Madagascar that we're doing. We've got our own take on Madagascar. We've got Jungle Book, which is going to be fantastic. That's our last weekend and our big showcase on the 21st and 22nd of June. We've got The Journey, which is a beautiful story about these birds trying to understand leadership. We've got The Tiger Who Wore White Gloves, which is inspired by a poem, and it's actually about a democracy. And it's about what it means to be the leader of a kingdom and getting the people's vote. We've got Catch That Crocodile, which is a very fun story based on a story that's written like from India. We've got Who Took My Banana, which is a jungle adventure. So the entire thing is a jungle themed festival. And each of the plays cater to a different age group and they have a different set of actors, but you can bring your kids in to watch any of them. So a 5-year-old will enjoy my teenager's Jungle Book just as much as my teenagers will enjoy our Tiger Who Wore White Gloves. Just bring them and let them see the magic of live theatre.
What's the role of inclusivity in casting for these plays?
When a child walks into the Hive, we see the child as a child. Sometimes we have children who are on the autism spectrum who come into class. We've had children with visual impairments that have come into class. We've had children who struggle with focus, with ADHD, who come into class. And to us, the magic of the Hive classroom is we are 12 kids to a room. And that is the biggest privilege that we have as educators. It means that we can make the class content suit the class and not the other way around. In your schools, what's happening is because you've got 35 kids to a class, it's a one size fits all. This is the recipe. We are churning it out like McDonald's. It's not about what you like and what you don't like. Whereas what we're doing is Michelin star. We are catering the content to suit the child. We're making it work for the kids. And that's what an education should be. It shouldn't be the other way around. To give you an example, one of the biggest plays of our festival last year, the lead role was played by a child on the autism spectrum. It wasn't that we made a big deal about it. It wasn't a special needs show. The other actors were equally capable, equally fantastic, and they all took whatever measures they had to ensure that this kid felt safe going up on stage. And you know what? He did a great job. He gave everyone else on that stage a run for their money. And he walked out with a swollen chest. He was like so happy. He ran out of that curtain call and gave every single teacher on the team a hug. And that's when we knew that we were doing something right. It's about making him feel safe enough to be his full self. Yes, it's about ensuring that every class is inclusive, but it's also about letting the other kids know how they need to work with someone with different abilities in their space. Because the way I see it, I am not training actors. I am training the future leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
So the way that I teach them to work with people with different needs is the way that they are going to run companies tomorrow. The same kids are going to go out there and they're going to create businesses, they're going to lead countries, they're going to lead campaigns. And when someone applies for a job to their companies and are on the autism spectrum, they are not going to keep that CV aside. They'll say, hey, I worked with that kid in 7th grade. I think this kid can do a great job. And that's my job.
You do have some scholarships in the Hive.
Yes, we do.
And why do you have them?
So I want to talk about two things actually within the scholarship space. One is the Hive scholarships themselves. We believe that if you want to do drama, money should not be the reason why you're not in my classroom. If you want to be here, we will make sure that you are here. And to me, it is as simple as that. When I say we put children over people, over profits, I really mean it. Last year alone, we did over 150,000 dirhams worth of scholarships to students. This year, we are possibly topping that. I'll know at the close of the year. But for us, it's not about making it loud. It's a very quiet conversation between a parent and someone on our sales team and the teacher. It's not known to anybody. And very often, even the kids don't know they're on scholarship. If you come by and tell my team that my child really wants to do drama, but I really can't afford it right now because we've lost our job or we're going through a financial struggle or I'm a single parent, we'll make it happen. Just let that information be with us and it'll be as quiet as that. The second beautiful thing I want to talk about is a campaign that we've just started this year called Stories Beyond Borders. When our kids in the UAE do what they call a charitable project or an impact project, very often it's about them creating an idea. A couple of their very rich parents will sign off a check. They get to feel like they have donated a big amount to some faraway country, and that's when the relationship ends. But that's not what we want, right? Children in our schools have smart boards and they have teachers who care about them and they have the best facilities in the world. There's a child sitting in a government school in Chennai who's just as smart as your child and she didn't do anything wrong, but 75% of her class cannot read. 50% of her class can't get through a page of text. I believe that we need to be creating a world where your child and that child in that government school in Chennai are competing for the same spot.
Yeah.
It's not about giving, putting a little charity bag together and feeling very good about yourself is like one
Shallow.
aspect of it.
Yeah.
What I need you to do is to be able to partner up with these kids and see them as equals and understand that both of you are collaborators in the world.
5 reasons why somebody should come to this theatre festival.
The Hive Theatre Festival is a wonderful opportunity to give kids the experience of watching a live performance. As a family, you know that when you go out to a fancy theatre and you're spending 500 dirhams a ticket, it's impossible to do that on a monthly basis. Children need to see good theatre, to do good theatre. They need to see a story being told on stage to become better storytellers themselves. And in a world where they are constantly swiping and scrolling and being fed sugar and souvenirs in all of the activity parks in Dubai, we offer you an experience where you come, bring your child, sit with them, watch a bunch of kids tell a story, go back, have a conversation, and you've not touched your screen once over the weekend. We understand that for many middle-class families in Dubai, theatre and the art scene can be extremely restrictive. We just can't afford it. So what we did is we said, let's make it free. If we make it free, then you have no excuse to not come and watch.
Yeah.
So come. All we want is for our kids to have an audience where everyone's clapping and watching them. You're an actor, Pankaj, you know this. Actors thrive on a full audience.
True.
Nothing breaks an actor's heart like walking up on stage after 6 months of rehearsal and seeing 30 people in the audience. We don't want to ever do that again. We want everyone to come and watch our kids because we think they're brilliant, and they are.
Yeah.
They are the brightest in this city. And they will put on a great show, and they're telling fantastic stories. All we're asking is for you to come and pay in applause and pay in support.
And what's the venue?
We are at our own theatre, Live at Play in Alcuz. This is for the very first time. Our summer festival is going to be happening at a theatre of our own, which is going to be for 7 weekends, and we've got 60 shows.
Live at Play is your latest baby.
Yep.
Tell us more about it.
As someone who has been renting theatres in Dubai for the last so many years and taking our festival theatre to theatre, at some point we just wanted to put our bags down. I think a big part of the Dubai journey is always key. You know, when you get your first house in Dubai is a very big thing, right?
True.
We've got our first house in Dubai. Now, finally, we don't have to worry about putting our stuff in bags and packing and moving from one place to another year on year based on rent. Every Dubai person knows the pain of that.
Yeah.
We don't want to be doing that anymore. We've got our place. We're putting our bags down. And this is going to be a home for the arts. The name Live at Play, which is used on Instagram, and at Play, which is our theatre, comes from the fundamental belief that we learn when we play.
Yeah.
If we're not having fun, if we're not exploring, we are not learning. The very objective of being on the planet and living a life is to learn.
Yeah.
And to learn, you need to play. So come and play.
Is this place only for kids?
No, absolutely not. If you have a play that you would like to showcase, we have a beautiful stage that you can come up and put your play on at. We have arts evenings that you can do. You can showcase your artwork. If you're a dancer or you're a choreographer, you would like to rent the space to come and perform, we'd love to have you. If you are a evening of board games and you want to just come and gather some friends and do board games, we can do that. You want to come and play? You want to do a workshop, you want to teach, you want to learn, you want to play and learn, we're here, come.
It's your comfort zone.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, there are two important things for business. One is creating the business, creating the demand, then fulfilling that demand. Which one do you think is more challenging?
For us, I think it's not about just creating the demand and fulfilling it. It's the cycle of the two, right? Because you create a demand, you fulfill it, you grow the creation, you fulfill it, you grow it more, you fulfill it, you grow it more, you fulfill it. It's not like an A and B section of the journey. It's not that you made the demand and now you're going to fulfill it and the job is done. It's about keeping that wheel moving.
Yeah.
To constantly fulfill so well that you've created more than you create enough, and then you find the right ways to fulfill it, and then you fulfilled it so beautifully that people are like, we want more of this, and then you give them more of that, and then you find new ways of fulfilling that, then you introduce new creations, and the cycle moves. So my job is not to complete a journey in a linear way, it's to keep a wheel moving.
Between profits and emotions, what matters more?
My children. It's kids, people, profits.
Today, it's in a safe space, the profit space. When it was not in the safe space, how did you go through that journey?
It's always been in the green.
Okay.
Yeah, our from the day that we took it over, there hasn't been a day where we've been we've not been profitable. So we've been touch wood, all the wood in the world.
Where is it?
Touch wood. Thank you God. I don't want to sound, see?
Tathastu.
But it's always been profitable, and I think that's because I have a team of wonderful women who work with me, who are so frugal and they are so sharp. They will negotiate for every dhania and every green chili, and they will make it happen.
When was the first time you fell in love with the mic?
I went for my first radio audition at the age of 19. And I landed the job of being the late night presenter. So I would finish college and then I would do the late night show on Radio City Bangalore, 91.1 FM. It was very nice.
Bajate raho?
That time it was not Bajate Raho. It was something else. But yeah, it was a lovely job to have. And I think that's when I fell in love with radio. But radio's always been a part of my home growing up. My mom used to listen to Radio Ceylon, continues to listen to Radio Ceylon. And when World Space Radio came out, it was a very large part of our lives.
Yeah.
And my early entrepreneurship adventure was I went to the head of World Space in their Bangalore office at the age of 16. And I said, I have an idea. I'd like to start a radio station. Will you fund it? He looked at me, he looked at my CV, and he's like, madam, you are not 16 years old yet. Can you come back when it's legal to hire you? I was like, yeah. So yeah.
Whose impact is it that Malu is not afraid of talking to anyone or facing any problem?
Drama. 100% drama. I think I can say this hand on heart with all of my Hive kids. They are now going into university, right? Kids I started teaching when they were 9 are now 19. And the feedback that they come back to me with is not just they are amazing public speakers and they take on leadership roles so quickly because they know how to charm an audience, but also they are not afraid of talking to anyone. You put them in a bus stop and they'll talk to someone. You get them to talk to an auto rickshaw driver. You get them to talk to a CEO. You get them to talk to a mum who's waiting in the corridor. They can make conversation with anyone, anywhere. Yeah. That's the magic of drama.
So right now you're based out of UAE with 7 spots to conquer the hearts of the people.
Yeah.
When do you see yourself going global?
For me, it's about making sure that the recipe does not get diluted.
Yeah.
Like I said, McDonald's versus Michelin. I'm Michelin. I'm not McDonald's. So I'm very wary of us compromising on the quality of what we deliver at the cost of expansion. So for me, I don't have anyone to pass this on to. I'm not building this because I want to pass it on to another generation. I'm not interested in a Rolls Royce or becoming the next Ambani. The answer that I really owe to are the children that are in this class right now. And as long as I'm able to deliver that quality to them and I'm able to keep that quality consistent, find the right people, find the right passionate teachers to be able to translate my vision and my passion into other classrooms and bring passion of their own to those classrooms, I will continue to expand. So I'm as global as the passion I find.
How does Bollywood compare to a drama theatre?
I asked you to think back to the last time you watched a play. That beauty of being able to see live actors in the flesh on stage, something so magical about that, right? You walk away with this feeling of exhilaration. I think there's a word for it. Yes, a phrase, collective effervescence. What is collective effervescence? Whether you go to a kirtan or you go to a concert or you go to a play, when a group of people come together and experience a performance that exists only once together, there is something that happens among them. There is a sort of magic that is created. It's a collective effervescence. And that's what the magic of theatre is. And I think that is something that is incomparable to any other medium. It's beautiful to see that in theatre. Movies have their own place in the world. And I love films and I love watching movies, but I don't walk out of the theatre with that same sense of fire in my belly as I do when I go watch a play. I think the other important thing about watching a film and watching a play is this. When you're watching a movie on Netflix at home, you very often have your screen in front of you and you're swiping. Your Netflix has become your second screen. Or maybe you've got
screen.
2 things happening parallelly, right?
Your laptop, your phone, and the Netflix.
Yeah. Which means you're not really there.
Yeah.
The most important thing about theatre is the actor can see you. When you take your phone out and you scroll, this actor's like, excuse me, sir, I have rehearsed for 6 months to do this for you and you've picked up your phone. So the responsibility of listening is so important. If you ask me, am I trying to build better public speakers? I am, but I'm also trying to build better listeners, which is why in a drama class, it's not about the scenes that you're in. It's about the scenes that you're watching.
Yeah.
Can you listen to another scene in a way that you make the person on stage feel like I am being heard? That's a far more important skill than the being on stage and speaking. If you're able to listen in a way that is active and engaged, if you can make the person in front of you feel like empowered to speak, dude, you can conquer any room. You know this.
Yeah, true.
This is what you do for a living.
True. So Malu, in a fictional world, if I'm making a movie as a director on you, it's a Bollywood movie, typical masala movie. Who plays Malavika in that movie?
A masala movie, Priyanka Chopra.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who plays Malavika in a Golden Globe award-winning movie?
Kaniko Sriti, who acted in All We Imagine Is Light, and I just loved every frame of her. Wow, what a person, yeah. Also, I heard some interviews of her and I'm just so in love with her. She's so amazing. Like, wow.
Have you met Priyanka Chopra and Kani both?
No, I have not met Kani, but I have met Priyanka Chopra and she's quite charming.
She's quite charming.
And beautiful.
Yeah. Do you believe in manifestation?
100%. I live by it.
Give me 2 instances where you have manifested something and it came true.
The first is the box on which I wrote, Someday I Must Do This for a Living. It was a Farnsworth invention box. We had done the play and the director gave us each a box and the cast wrote on it. And I wrote, Someday I Must Do This for a Living. I kept it on my shelf and today I'm doing this for a living. And the second is, I don't just believe in manifestation. I do it as part of my regular routine. At the end of every year, I take a week off and I like to put it, all the voices in my head on a retreat. So it's like the managing committee, my board of directors in my own mind, which is all the Malvikas of my mind, all go on a holiday together and we sit down and we sit at our conference table and we figure out what it is that we want to do in the coming year, whether we've been happy with the way things have progressed, where have we failed, where are we challenged, where are we facing obstacles, what do we want to do better, and then based on the yearly report we make a plan. See how seriously I'm talking about it. We make a plan for the year to come and we take that plan very seriously. We bring back from that retreat all our policies for the year ahead. So whether it's the way we manage the team, the way we manage the business, the way we manage our relationships, our family, our personal goals, our finances, there are all these different pockets. We come back from the annual retreat and ta-da, by the next year it's done. I kid you not, Pankaj, was the beginning of 2024. I came back from the retreat, from holiday on 2nd of Jan. I looked at Sarah on my team and I said, we got to get a theatre, dude. We've got to do it no matter what. 5th of February, the first check was signed. November, the theatre was open. Yeah. There is nothing that I've put on my vision board that has not come true. Not one thing. And that is super dangerous because it means that anything I want, I get. Yeah. So I better be careful what I want.
So what we have done over here is the people sitting in this studio right now, along with me, they have manifested something. And your biggest laughter for today's evening is going to come now.
Okay.
Malu, open your eyes. Get hold of this thing. And flip it. Smile, absorb, take it forward.
So cool. Oh, amazing. Oh, this is so cool.
Do you want to show it to the audience?
Yes. There, that's me. New York Times. Headlines.
It's a manifestation by us. And do you want to read the headlines as well?
Yes. Virat Kohli inaugurates the Hive in New York City. Applauds Malavika's vision. Thanks, Virat.
Yeah.
Sweet. In a heartwarming milestone for arts education, the Hive, a creative space founded by Malavika Varadan, opened its 100th branch in New York City. How will I manage 100 branches?
So this is exactly what we manifest for you. One,
beautiful.
Virat collaborating with you.
Thank you.
That's going to be a Virat collaboration for you. And the second thing, I believe what you say, what you preach, this should be a global message for all. And it should not just be confined to the 7 Emirates of the UAE. It should go much more beyond that.
Thank you.
Yes, there is some franchising needed. Yes, there is some collaboration needed. Yes, there is some standardization needed. But there is a lot more needed to be shared with the kids for the next generation.
Thank you.
And you do not need a United Nations logo for doing that. You can do it in small steps, one thing at a time.
Thank you.
And this is what we manifest today. And yes, of course, the only thing else which I would recommend you is please have better Wi-Fi passwords.
Shh, don't tell anyone.
I cannot tell anybody. I'm so ashamed of telling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, you're talking to art students.
Oh, come on. And with this, we end today's conversation full of joy, happiness, passion, theatre, drama, and a lot more than what you believe Malavika is.